Princess Liara of the Illyrian Empire walked along the high balcony of her palace, staring at the stars that stretched endlessly over the distant human worlds. She had always been curious about humans. Her people often mocked them for being small, weak, and fragile, but Liara had felt a strange pull toward them. There was something about their persistence, their stubbornness, that intrigued her. She could never have guessed that her curiosity would soon lead to a life-threatening danger. That day, Liara had accompanied a small escort to the borderlands. She wanted to see the lands beyond her empire, to witness how other species lived. The sun glinted off her royal attire as she rode her hover steed through the open plains. Birds of alien colors flew above, and the air was fresh with the scent of wild flora. For a moment she felt free, untethered from the weight of her royal duties. Suddenly the sky darkened with shadows. A scream echoed, and the peaceful moment shattered. The Dravik raiders' cruel aliens known for their savage attacks had ambushed her escort. The Illyrian guards fought bravely, their blades flashing in the dim sunlight, but the raiders were too many, too fast. Liara's heart pounded in her chest as chaos erupted around her. A massive Dravik grabbed her arm, pulling her off her hover steed. She struggled, but their grip was too strong. Her guards shouted her name, but they were quickly overpowered. Liara's mind raced, panic threatening to overwhelm her. She had trained in diplomacy and combat, but nothing could prepare her for being captured. The raiders dragged her into a ship, a dark, metallic vessel that smelled of smoke and oil. Liara's eyes adjusted to the dim light, and she could see the grim faces of her captors. They mocked her royal status, laughing at the idea that a princess could be helpless. They did not see the fear in her eyes. They only saw a prize, a trophy to deliver to their warlord. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the hum of the ship's engines. Liara sat on the cold floor, her wrists bound by alien restraints. She felt utterly alone. Thoughts of her family, her people, and the shame of defeat crowded her mind. She hated the weakness she felt, hated that she could not save herself. She closed her eyes and tried to think of a way out, but the restraints were tight, the ship unfamiliar, and her hope fading. Then, a soft voice broke the silence. "You shouldn't be here alone." Liara's eyes flew open. The voice was calm, steady, and human-sounding. Her heart skipped a beat. Confused and desperate, she called out, but her voice was swallowed by the engine's hum. The voice came again, this time closer. "I can help you. Trust me." Liara froze. Her fear battled with a strange spark of hope. Could someone really help her? She did not know who this mysterious figure was, but for the first time since her capture, a flicker of courage appeared in her chest. Her instincts told her to trust this stranger, even if it was impossible. With trembling hands, she waited. Footsteps approached, careful and silent. A shadow moved in the dim light, a small but confident figure that radiated purpose. Liara's curiosity mixed with fear. Who could this be? A fellow alien? A human? Something else entirely? The figure reached her side and extended a hand. "We need to move quickly. Follow me." Liara looked into the eyes of the one who had found her. In that moment, she sensed something extraordinary strength she had never expected, determination that could defy fear, and a courage that seemed almost impossible for someone so human. For the first time, the princess felt a flicker of hope. Her nightmare was far from over, but now she was not alone. Liara's heart raced as she followed the mysterious figure through the dark corridors of the Dravik ship. Every shadow seemed alive with danger, every sound a potential threat. Her mind tried to process what was happening. The one who had found her was human. Humans, according to her people, were weak, small, fragile, and incapable of handling real danger. Liara had laughed at their supposed limitations countless times in her lessons and courtly conversations. Yet here she was, relying on a human to save her life. Her pride flared, clashing with the gratitude she felt. The figure stopped at a corner and gestured for her to wait. He moved silently, almost gliding across the metallic floor, and took down 2 patrolling Dravik soldiers with quick, precise strikes. No weapons, no loud noises, just skill and speed. Arez's eyes widened. This human was extraordinary. Finally, he returned to her side. "We need to move carefully. They will notice us soon," he said. His voice was calm, steady, and reassuring. How can you do that?" Liara asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and awe. "You're human, you're so small. How can you fight like that?" He smiled faintly. "Humans survive because we don't rely on strength alone. We think, we adapt, and we never give up. You'll see." Liara studied him as they crept through the ship. His movements were precise, calculated, and yet full of courage. Every time danger appeared, he faced it without hesitation, he seemed. Fearless, not because he was invincible, but because he had chosen not to give in to fear. They reached a maintenance hatch that led to the lower deck. "Through here," he whispered. Liara hesitated. The opening was small, barely wide enough for her. She felt a moment of panic, but noticed the human waiting patiently, encouraging her with a steady gaze. "You can do this," he said simply. "We survive together." She swallowed her fear and followed him, crawling through the tight space. Her chest ached, not from the physical effort, but from the realization that she was putting her life in the hands of a human, something she never thought she would do. When they emerged on the lower deck, Liara saw the ship from a new perspective. It was vast, dark, and filled with potential danger. Guards patrolled in pairs, their senses sharp. But the human moved with confidence, weaving between them, predicting their moves, guiding her. Liara's astonishment grew with every step. "Why are you helping me?" she asked softly, unable to contain her curiosity. He looked at her with honesty. "Because it's the right thing to do. Fear doesn't decide who we save, courage does." Liara felt a lump in her throat. She had always believed strength was about power and technology. But this human had no advanced armor, no powerful weapon. Yet he was saving her, risking himself. For her, as they neared the control room, a group of Dravik soldiers suddenly appeared. Liara froze, expecting disaster. But the human acted without hesitation. He threw a small device that emitted a blinding light, disorienting the guards, and then let her past them. Her heart pounded. She could not believe what she had just witnessed. Once they were safe, Liara turned to him, awe written on her face. You're incredible. I never imagined a human could." Her words trailed off, replaced by a deep, unshakable respect. The human, Ethan, nodded. "There's more to humans than you see. We survive because we never stop trying, even when everything seems impossible." Lyra's fear slowly transformed into a strange admiration. She realized that humans were not weak. Not in the way she had believed. This human, this one fragile-looking being, had saved her life with nothing but courage, intelligence, and determination. For the first time, the princess felt hope. Real hope. She was not alone anymore. And for the first time, she understood that sometimes the smallest beings carried the greatest strength. Lyra's heart thumped wildly as she followed Ethan through the dim, twisting corridors of the Dravik ship. Every step was a gamble. One wrong move could alert the guards, and she could be captured or worse. Yet, despite the fear gnawing at her chest, she felt a strange sense of safety beside him, this human whom she had once underestimated. Now, it seemed unshakable, like a force of nature moving silently through chaos. They approached the ship's main control room. Ethan paused and knelt, examining a complex panel of lights and buttons. "This is it," he whispered. "If we can disable the engines and create a distraction, we might make it out alive." Liara swallowed hard, anxiety making her stomach twist. "What if we fail?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan looked at her, his dark eyes steady. "Then we keep trying. Humans survive by never giving up, you'll see." The princess watched, astonished as he worked. His fingers moved, quickly pressing buttons and flipping switches with a confidence she had never seen before. It was not brute strength he relied on, it was intelligence, calm, thinking, and courage. He seemed to know exactly what to do in every situation. Suddenly, a group of Dravik soldiers appeared, their snarls echoing through the control room. Liara froze, fear clawing at her throat. But Ethan acted without hesitation. He ducked behind a console, then leaped out with a precise strike that incapacitated one soldier. Another followed, and then another, each movement swift, calculated, and non-lethal. Liara watched in awe, her mind struggling to accept what she was seeing. Human so small, so seemingly fragile, was facing trained alien soldiers and winning. "Come on," he called, extending his hand. "We don't have much time." Liara grabbed his hand and ran, her pulse racing. They slipped through the corridors, avoiding patrols and alarms. Moving with a combination of cunning and courage that seemed impossible. Every time she thought they were trapped, Ethan found a way forward. Every corner brought new danger, and yet every corner also revealed his brilliance, his bravery, and his unwavering determination. Finally, they reached the docking bay. The escape pod waited, small and unassuming, a fragile vessel in the vastness of the ship. Liara hesitated for a brief moment, the fear threatening to paralyze her. But Ethan's calm presence reassured her. "We can do this. Together," he said. She nodded, swallowing her fear, and stepped into the pod. He followed, closing the hatch behind them. The pod shuddered as Ethan activated it, and the ship's engines roared to life. The Dravik would notice their absence soon, but he had timed it perfectly. As they blasted away from the ship, Liara felt a mix of relief, awe, and disbelief. Her body trembled, but her mind raced with admiration for the human beside her. She had once believed humans were weak, fragile, and incapable of real strength. Yet here was Ethan, guiding her to safety, facing danger without hesitation, and using nothing but his courage, intelligence, and determination. Lyra's chest swelled with emotion. She had always prided herself on her own strength, her royal training, and her intellect. But beside this human, she realized she had underestimated what it truly meant to be strong. Strength was not always about size, power, or weapons. Sometimes it was about heart, spirit, the refusal to give up when everything seemed lost. As they floated safely away from the Dravik ship, the stars stretching endlessly around them, Liara looked at Ethan. He was calm, focused, and still entirely human. And for the first time, she truly understood the resilience of humanity in that moment. She felt a spark of hope that had nothing to do with escape pods or clever plans. It came from the knowledge that humans could do the impossible, that courage could exist in the smallest, most fragile-seeming beings. And she knew, deep in her heart, that this was only the beginning of her journey. After escaping the Dravik ship, Liara and Ethan drifted through the empty space between stars in the small escape pod. The vastness of the galaxy surrounded them, quiet and endless. And for the first time since her capture, Liara could breathe. The fear that had gripped her for days began to ebb, replaced by a strange mix of relief, awe, and curiosity. She turned to Ethan, studying him more closely. His hair was disheveled from the chaos, his face streaked with dirt and sweat, yet his eyes were calm and steady. He had saved her life, guided her through impossible danger, and faced enemies she could barely imagine. And still he seemed ordinary, just a human. You were incredible back there," she said softly, unable to hide her admiration. "I never thought a human could do what you did." Ethan shrugged lightly, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I'm not special. Humans survive because we keep going, even when everything seems impossible. That's all." Liara felt a lump form in her throat. She had always believed strength was measured by size, weapons, and power. But Ethan had shown her something different. Strength could be quiet. Strength could be patience, courage, and the refusal to give up. And it could come in a form she had always underestimated a human. For a long time, neither of them spoke. The pod drifted silently, the stars twinkling like distant fires. Lyra's mind raced, remembering the moments of fear, the close calls, and the way Ethan had acted without hesitation. Every decision, every movement had been precise, calm, and fearless. He had guided her, protected her, and never let her feel hopeless. "I misjudged humans," she admitted finally. "My people. We think we are stronger than all other species. We laugh at humans for being small and weak, but you've shown me something I can't ignore. You've shown me what humans are really capable of." Ethan's eyes softened. "Humans survive because we care, because we fight for others, because we never give up. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest, it's about doing what needs to be done, even when it's impossible." Lyra's heart swelled. She had always been proud of her own abilities, her royal training, and her intellect. But beside Ethan, she felt humility and admiration, emotions she rarely allowed herself. She realized that bravery and courage were not about species or bloodlines. They were about spirit. And Ethan's spirit shone brighter than anything she had ever witnessed as they traveled. Lyra began to share stories of her life, her world, and the Illyrian Empire. She spoke of the grandeur of her people, the power of her court, and the arrogance that often blinded them. Ethan listened quietly, occasionally asking questions, never judging, always patient. His presence was calming, and his interest genuine. In turn, Ethan shared tales of his own world humans, surviving wars, disasters, and hardships far beyond Lyra's imagination. He spoke of courage in ordinary people, of small acts of heroism that changed lives, and of hope that persisted even in darkness. Lyra listened, astonished by the resilience, ingenuity, determination of humans. By the time they approached the nearest human colony, a quiet bond had formed between them. It was not a friendship based on familiarity, nor on shared culture. It was a bond forged in danger, in trust, and in admiration. Lyra no longer saw humans as fragile or weak. She saw Ethan, and through him, she saw the indomitable strength of an entire species. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never felt as a princess: humility, awe, and the comforting warmth of trust. The human beside her had saved her life, and in doing so, had also changed the way she saw the universe. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her old prejudices fall away. The stars stretched endlessly before them, full of possibilities and challenges. And as she looked at Ethan, she knew that together, they could face whatever dangers awaited them. In that quiet, drifting moment, the princess began to understand something extraordinary. Courage and strength were not always measured by power, size, or status. They were measured by heart. And Ethan had one of the largest hearts she had ever known. Lyra and Shah. Ethan had barely rested when word came that the Dravik were preparing another attack. Their ship had not gone unnoticed, and the raiders were determined to capture or destroy anything connected to the princess. Lyra's chest tightened as she listened to the reports. Her people's lives could be at risk, and this time it wouldn't be enough to hide or flee. She would have to act. Ethan stood beside her, calm and focused. "We can fight this," he said quietly. "We have to use our minds, not just weapons. Humans survive by thinking ahead, by using what others overlook." Lyra nodded, feeling a surge of courage. She realized that she could not rely solely on her royal status or trained soldiers. She would have to lead, to strategize, and to trust in Ethan's ingenuity. Together, they devised a plan to turn the Dravok's aggression against them. They studied the enemy fleet, noting weaknesses and patterns. Ethan suggested using small, precise attacks to confuse and distract, while Lyra coordinated her own people to prepare defenses. It was risky, far riskier than any conventional battle, but it was the only way to stand a chance. When the Dravik fleet approached, Lyra felt the familiar pang of fear. The alien ships were vast, bristling with weapons, and their numbers were overwhelming. Her stomach churned, but she drew strength from Ethan's presence. He moved with the confidence of someone who had faced impossible odds before, and his calm energy spread to her. "Remember," he whispered, "fear doesn't win. Courage does." The battle began. Lyra watched as Ethan led daring strikes against the enemy. Using clever diversions, he lured groups of raiders into traps, outmaneuvering them at every turn. His strategies were unorthodox, relying on intelligence, speed, and unpredictability rather than brute force. Lyra's heart pounded with a mix of anxiety and admiration. This human, small and fragile by appearance, was changing the tide of battle with nothing but courage and ingenuity. Lyra's own people fought valiantly. Inspired by her leadership, they followed her orders with precision, and soon the Dravik began to falter. Ships collided, formations broke, and the raiders' confidence wavered. Lyra could not stop watching Ethan move through chaos with an almost effortless grace, turning danger into opportunity. At one point, a massive Dravok warship targeted Lyra's flagship. Alarms blared and panic threatened to spread. Ethan analyzed the situation instantly. "We can't fight them head-on. We have to make them underestimate us." He directed Lyra to lead her fleet in a sudden feint, drawing the warship into a trap. The Dravik ship was caught and its weapons disabled, giving Lyra and her people a critical advantage. When the battle ended, the Dravik fleet retreated, their morale shattered. Lyra's heart swelled with relief and pride, but more than that, with astonishment. A human had helped her save her people, outthinking and outmaneuvering a far larger and stronger enemy. Lyra looked at Ethan, her emotions raw and unfiltered. I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. "You've saved countless lives. You've shown me what humans can do." Ethan shook his head, smiling modestly. "You led them, Lyra. I just helped. Courage and determination, that's what wins wars, not size or power. You've seen it now." Lyra's chest tightened as she realized the truth of his words. She had once believed her royal blood and her people's might were everything. Now she understood that ingenuity, bravery, and heart could triumph where even great armies might fail. Humans had survived because of these qualities for millennia, and she had just witnessed it firsthand. That night, under the quiet stars, Lyra sat with Ethan and her fleet. She felt a deep respect and awe for the human beside her. For the first time, she truly understood what it meant to underestimate someone based on appearances. And she promised herself she would never do it again. Humans were more than fragile beings. They were capable of courage, of brilliance, of changing the course of history. And one human had changed hers forever. Lyra returned to the Illyrian capital with Ethan by her side. The journey back was quiet, the stars stretching endlessly around them, as if the galaxy itself had paused to watch their return. Lyra could hardly believe that the human, who had saved her hand, helped defeat the Dravik, was now traveling with her as a companion. Her heart still swelled with awe and gratitude. When they arrived, the royal court erupted in whispers. Nobles and advisors stared at the human, their expressions a mix of disbelief, fear, and curiosity. Many were shocked that a human so small, so unarmored, and so ordinary in appearance had accompanied the princess through the dangers of the Dravik. Some were skeptical. Some were offended. How could a human, a species they had always deemed weak, be allowed near the princess? Lyra stepped forward, her regal presence commanding attention. "This is Ethan," she announced, her voice steady and clear. "He is the one who saved my life. He is brave, clever, and courageous. More than that, he is the reason our people survived the Dravik attack," the court murmured, some in disbelief, others in stunned admiration. The human standing beside Lyra looked calm, modest, and unassuming. Yet the princess's words carried weight. When she spoke, the court listened. Lyra's eyes scanned the faces around her. She saw doubt, hesitation, and pride clashing with reality. Some advisors whispered angrily among themselves, willing to accept that a human had outsmarted enemies that many Illyrians feared to confront. But Lyra did not falter. "Humans are not weak," she continued, her voice rising with emotion. "We judged them based on appearances, on size and strength, on what seemed obvious. We were wrong. Humans survive because they adapt, because they never give up, and because they fight when it matters most. Ethan has shown us all the true meaning of courage." She stepped closer to Ethan, resting her hand lightly on his shoulder. "I am proud to call him my friend, my ally, and the one who saved my life. And I hope that from this day forward, humanity will be seen not as fragile, but as capable, intelligent, and strong." The court fell silent. For the first time, the nobles and advisors realized the truth in her words. They could no longer ignore what they had witnessed. Ethan's courage and skill had saved the princess and countless lives. His actions had turned the tide of a battle that seemed impossible. One by one, murmurs of admiration spread through the room. Some advisors bowed slightly, their pride giving way to respect. Others still hesitated, but even they could not deny the facts. A human one of the smallest, most underestimated beings in the galaxy had proven his worth in a way no one could challenge. Liara turned back to Ethan, her eyes softening. "You have done more than I could have imagined. You have changed the way we see your people. You have changed the way I see the universe." Ethan's face remained modest, his eyes reflecting a quiet pride. "I only did what I had to do," he said simply. "Humans survive by never giving up. You've seen it, and now everyone else will too." Liara smiled, a mixture of relief, admiration, and deep respect filling her heart. She realized that this human had not only saved her life, but it also opened a door to understanding, humility, and a new way of seeing the universe. The princess, who had once looked down on humans, now stood beside one as a friend and equal. Inspired by his courage and brilliance, as the court watched, a new respect for humanity took root. The idea that humans were weak and fragile began to crumble. One human, with nothing but heart, intelligence, and determination, had proven more than enough. And Liara knew that the story of Ethan's bravery would be remembered forever. In that moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and astonishment. The princess had discovered something extraordinary. True strength was not measured by size, power, or status. It was measured by courage, ingenuity, and the refusal to give up even when the odds were impossible. And Ethan, the human who had defied every expectation, stood at her side, calm, brave, and unforgettable. The stars glittered over the Ilarian palace as Princess Liara walked quietly through the gardens, her thoughts heavy, yet alive with wonder. The battle was over, the Dravic fleet defeated, and the court had finally recognized Ethan's courage. But even amidst the triumph, Liara felt something deeper, a realization that would stay with her forever. She found Ethan standing by the fountain, his gaze on the calm water as though he carried the weight of everything they had endured. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, neither speaking. Both understanding the journey they had shared, Liara stepped closer, her heart full of emotion she had never expected to feel. "I always believed humans were fragile," she said softly. "I thought you were weak, incapable, easily broken. But I see now how wrong I was." Ethan turned to her, his expression gentle, almost amused. "Humans survive by never giving up. That's all," he said simply. "We have to keep moving forward, no matter what. That's how we endure." Liara shook her head, a small smile forming on her lips. "It's more than that. You are more than that. You have courage I've never seen in my people, intelligence I've never known in my advisors, and a heart that refuses to give up even when everything is against you. You've changed the way I see not just humans, but the entire universe." Ethan's modesty remained. "I just did what anyone would do in my place. You survived because you trusted me, and together we made it work." Lyra's gaze softened, tears glimmering in her eyes. She remembered the moments in the Dravic ship, the narrow escapes, the fear that had gripped her chest, then the way Ethan had guided her through it all with patience, skill, and courage. She had underestimated him, underestimated humanity, and she would never make that mistake again. "You've shown me something extraordinary," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You've shown me that strength isn't about size, status, or power. It's about heart. It's about spirit. And sometimes, the smallest beings can change the course of history." Ethan reached out, gently taking her hand. Liara felt a warmth that was more than physical. It was trust, respect, and admiration all at once. She realized that she had not just been saved physically. She had been changed emotionally, spiritually. Her world, her understanding of life, and her perception of strength had been transformed. For the first time, Liara truly understood the depth of humanity's potential. She had laughed at humans, dismissed them, and believed they were weak. Now, standing beside the one human who had risked everything for her, She was humbled and astonished. "You're right," she said finally, her voice steady and filled with awe. "Courage, determination, and heart. These are the true strengths. And you, Ethan, have all of them in ways I could never have imagined. You've saved me, my people, and in a way, you've saved me from my own arrogance." Ethan smiled softly, a quiet, unassuming hero. "You've seen what humans can do. Now you know why we survive." Liara stood tall, her pride and amazement intertwining. She looked up at the stars, feeling their vastness and the endless possibilities ahead. Humanity had survived and thrived despite every obstacle, and she had witnessed it firsthand. And one human had shown her that even the smallest spark could ignite greatness. In that moment, she realized that the universe was not defined by the strongest or the most powerful, but by those who dared to act when others faltered. The princess, once proud and distant, now stood in true astonishment. She had seen the impossible done, the underestimated rise, and the smallest being leave the largest impact, and beside her, the human who had done all of this stood quietly, humble yet unforgettable. Liara knew that this story of courage, resilience, and humanity would echo through generations. She would never forget it. The princess, once full of doubt and pride, now understood the truth. Sometimes it is the heart, spirit, and courage of one human that can change everything. And in that understanding, she found a new kind of a one that would stay with her forever.